Hello, I thought I'd do a quick video for what I use when I do a file new project with Umbraco, in case it's helpful to anyone. So I'm going to do this in a new project, and I'm going to create a Git repository just to kind of initialize it. Okay. So you can see it's a blank Git repository. There's nothing inside there right now. So back into Visual Studio, I'm going to create a new project. We'll call an empty web application. We'll put it there. We'll call it my web app. In the same folder, framework 472. And I usually create it as an empty project because Umbraco adds all the MVC references it needs through NuGet itself. So, whoa, bright screen. Okay, so I've got an empty project inside there. I'll generally also add a library project. So my web app.library. The reason I'll add this is effectively I like to keep my models, my controllers, any business logic separate from the main web project itself. I also tend to keep a constants file in the root of the library project. That's just my habits, so that I can reference things like config keys as and when I need to. So we'll create a folder for models. We'll create a folder for control. Actually, let's go and add the bracket new NuGets now. So inside here, I'm going to add the Umbraco CMS to the web project. And while this is happening, we can go and add our folders to here. So oh, come on, I can't type today. Controllers, and I'll usually add a services folder as well. Don't need that one. Okay, so Umbraco is set up. I'll also generally add models builder. So you need models builder itself is already there, but you also need UI. So and the API project. Okay. Right, now you've got all of those in your main project. We can fire up Umbraco. Whilst this is firing up, so yeah, the basic structure is I keep web projects over there. I have my strongly typed models inside there. I reference, in fact, let's do that now. Let's add a reference to the library project so that this is now referenced from inside there. Right, let's go. Okay, I'm just going to do a default install for now. Whilst this is happening, we can create a gitIgnore file so that we have the default setup. I'm just going to open this in a UI so you can sort of see. Oops. what's happening. So initially to commit, you'll have all your projects inside there. Now obviously you've got this temp folder. Now that isn't something you'd necessarily want to commit, so add to gitIgnore. Temp, that will get rid of all of that stuff that you don't need. I think. Oh, media, yeah, you don't necessarily. Hello, Matt. Let's get rid of media. I don't like having media in source control. It's a personal preference, but you may, and that's fine if you do. I think that's pretty much it. The rest of it's all Umbraco, right? So now we're at the initial commit stage. You do your thing. Okay, now I can go back to Visual Studio. Right, so Umbraco is running. Where's Umbraco running? Here it is. So let's log into Umbraco. Thank you, Tor. Right, so now you'll have Models Builder in your settings node, so that you can sort of see where things are. Right, the next thing to do is to hook up the models being automatically built. So in your web config, you've got these two keys, Umbraco Models Builder, Models Mode, and Enable API. So I'm going to replace those with my preferences. So what I do, I set the models mode to app data so that the files are generated in what would be normally the app data folder, except that I set the directory to a separate project outside Umbraco. And because of that, you need this except unsafe directory true. So the models will be created inside that models folder. You've then got your namespace, which is my app library models, which will match this project, but you can change that to whatever you want to. Now, if I rebuild, go back into Umbraco. Somebody's phoning me. They can wait. Reload this page. I can now generate models, and then inside here, if I say show all files, I'll see all the models I've generated. So let's include those in the project. I can do the same for the web project because it'll also include all the views which are part of the default sample site. I just want to include those because I'll need those later. Right, so now we have a slight problem that the Umbraco site will be broken if you try and run it, and the reason that is because the sample site doesn't use... Oh no, I haven't. Right, the thing I've next got to do is I've got to set Models Builder up inside my library project. So I'm going to go set Models Builder up for the solution, and now Models Builder needs to also be installed in the library project. Let's do that. The other things you also need are core on the library project and web in the library project. You need these to reference the context and if you want to build your own controllers in your separate project, all that kind of stuff you need to have. So CMS core, CMS web, and the main Models Builder root project itself. Now all these errors should magically disappear. Hey, cool. Run the site. There will still be a problem. And the problem is going to be that the sample site references the models from the wrong namespace, so it's going to be expecting them from content models home, but that is no longer where they are, because if you recall, I change the namespace for that. So if we get rid of that, we reference it from the namespace that I created, which is my web app library models home. There's going to be one more to change because the sample also uses it here, so I just need to include that using statement. Now that I've done that, the site should build. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to create a new controller. So home controller. Public class. Create a render MVC controller. And now what you need to do is one of the big advantages of using models this way is you can extend the model. So for example, in my site I'm going to add a partial class which will extend the home model to include some additional properties. So I'm just going to generate some message string over here. So effectively that extends the generated, don't worry about that error for now, that extends the generated model that is generated through the models builder. Ignore the error messages, it's just resharper hasn't quite updated its cache. This will all still build. So what I'm going to do inside the home controller is I've now got my view model which is cast to, not basket, but home from the content model which is passed in. In here I now can access this additional property that I created, the extra property, equals hello world. The time is date time. Okay. Right. Again, resharper is just going a bit mental, so ignore the red errors. Okay, there we go. They've all gone now. So I've now got a controller which is a render MVC controller, which is effectively replacing the controller for the main home document type. I'm then casting it to my extended model, so I've got additional properties inside there which may or may not be useful to you. I can then go back to my view home, and let's see, under the H1 let's render out my message. Okay, so my message is now accessible to me because it's all strongly typed. There. Right, so one last rebuild and then reload this page. Any second now. And you have your sample site and your custom message inside there, which is the extended property. It's all strongly typed. If you make any changes actually let's go and do that now. So now let's go and commit all my changes. So all my models are inside there. Added models. Now if I go in here and I go to any document type and I add a property, I can go back to settings. Models builder will track that it's out of date. I can regenerate my models. Source control will also reflect that blog has got a new property added to it. That will also be strongly typed. And that is also going to be accessible inside here. So blog will have the new property, which means that if I'd created a blog controller, I would have had access to that additional property. So anyway, cool. Any questions, give me a shout. I'm on Twitter, web, all that stuff. Hope that helps. Thanks very much. Bye.